that we met, I could tell by your smile. You hadn't been with a good girl like me in a while. Yeah, you were impressed, couldn't leave me alone. Text me every time that you pick up the phone. And I had control in the driver's seat, but my hands are slipping off the wheel. Now the tables have turned, now I'm up all night. I'm picturing you, acting like a fool. I'm on the other side, you're like a full moon, and I'm up all night, howling at you.
Good morning. It's a pretty dour morning this morning. We're not going to have the sunshine that we had yesterday in this part of the world, but don't despair, it's going to come back on Thursday, Friday, and we can all look forward to getting a tan, can't we? No. It's not going to be that sort of fierce sun, but it does make life rather pleasant. It's nice to go out and enjoy it and still not have to put on a coat. By this time we're normally wearing a big thick coat and to keep out the frost and the winds and so on and so forth, but not this year. The summer really has gone on and on and on, with the odd wet day and the odd chilly day, but generally speaking it's been fantastic. But anyway, I only have a short period of time for this particular rant, so just let me get on with it. Not that I've got a lot to say this morning, because the news is all about Brexit, and I think it's so much nonsense that they've just got to sort themselves out. But the papers are taking their usual stance, either for Brexit or against Brexit, and so on and so forth, and it just gets sickening, because 9 times out of 10 they haven't a clue what they're talking about. They're just emotional claptrap. So I'm just fed up with that. The other headline is about Meghan being pregnant. Prince Harry is going to be a father, a dad, and once again, I'm sure that's a great celebration, and he's a very thoroughly likable bloke, I think, and she's turning into quite an accomplished escort for him. So yeah, we need to watch them and see what they're doing and so on. But I don't think you could, there's an article on almost every page of every newspaper this morning about it, and so I really don't think that there's much to talk about in the news. If you're going to London, Paddington Station has been closed down because of a power outage, and no trains are going anywhere, so do make alternative arrangements if you're a Paddington person. Or just check, because I suppose power outages can be resolved very quickly, and it may all come back together very well. But at the moment, the trains are standing in the station and are not able to go anywhere. Whether in fact there are lights on enough for you to have a cup of coffee, I have no idea. But Paddington is in a bit of a mess this morning. Just a couple of things that I wanted to chat about, because there are things that amuse me when, particularly when authority is taken for a ride. And I was just scanning various things this morning just to find out what's amusing in the world, and the thing that caught my eye and really amused me enormously was the Olympics in 1956 in Melbourne in Australia. A long time ago, you may say, but it's pertinent today, I think, because we all get terribly excited when the torch comes through our town, or we watch carefully as the flame goes from Olympus to around the world, wherever the Olympics are going to be held, and they go to as many countries as they can, and pass from runner to runner, and so on. And it's a very good idea. I mean, it's a lovely thing to think. It gets people out onto the streets, and it highlights the fact that the Olympics are terribly important to us, and so they should be. But that torch-carrying ceremony didn't come from the Greeks, unfortunately. It came from Nazi Germany, because in the 1936 Olympics, it was Goebbels who decided it would be a very good propaganda ploy, and he was a very clever man. I mean, let's not take it away from him just because of his political philosophy. And so he started that, and we all loved it enough to make sure that it went on on with other Olympic Games. And in 1956, of course, the war was still fresh in a lot of people's minds, and there was a lot of anger and bitterness around. Because it was known in those days where this ceremony started, is the Olympic torch in Melbourne in Australia was delivered dutifully to the mayor so that he could actually make a speech before it went on to the Olympic Stadium and got everything started. And it turned up and it was handed over, and he started the speech and then realised that something was dreadfully wrong. First of all, the runner had been in a coat and tie and when he passed over the torch, the mayor quickly realised that it was a chair leg, and that it was an old, as it was described as a pudding can, but I suppose a can of baked beans would have been all right, at the top, stuffed with a pair of filthy old undershorts from a student, soaked in kerosene and burning merrily away. And before he could stop his speech and realise, as the student had disappeared into the crowd and he was left holding the chair leg, dumbfounded, and nobody knew it for that moment where the real torch was. Anyway, I found that quite amusing, and that they got away with it. And I pointed out, with a slightly naughty story, that we only see what we want to see sometimes. And some friends of mine in Canada many years ago were great joke artists. They were always pulling practical stunts, and one New Year's Eve they announced that they were going to have a fashion show, but the men were going to show off ladies' hats, which they did, and they marched through the basement where this party was being held. Canadians have very well developed basements where they hold parties and so on, called rumpus rooms, I think, mostly. And they marched through with the hats, and everybody looked at the hats and giggled and so on and so forth, and the boys had flashed through quickly, and before anybody realised it, they were all looking at the hats, and these chaps were totally starkers. They were naked. And nobody realised it until they were disappearing through the door. Then, of course, a great roar. Anyway, we only see what we want to see sometimes, so be very careful. And this morning, there was nothing more to really talk about, so we only saw what we wanted to see. That sometimes happens, particularly with things like Lewis District Council. Oh, sorry, I said I'd leave them alone this morning, but I can't help it. Customer first gives me a giggle. Oh, great. See you tomorrow. Toodle pip.
September we met, I could tell by your smile. You hadn't been with a good girl like me in a while. Yeah, you were impressed, couldn't leave me alone. Text me every time that you pick up the phone. And I had control on the driver's seat, but my hands are slipping off the wheel. Now the tables have turned, now I'm up all night. I'm picturing